Good morning again. This is Bob Patzwald from the Patzwald Garage. My second video, I'm going to give you a little bit better tour around the El Camino project, and then maybe we'll talk a little bit about what I'm running into on the air conditioning. So I'll come around and grab the camera here. This was a pretty straight El Camino that we were able to purchase. It was originally a Colorado car, so I think that's why there was very little rust on the body or the frame. And as I said, I was able to jack the body up off the frame. The frame's been completely sanded and painted. I didn't powder coat it. I'm trying to get this car in driving condition pretty quick. So found out the rear axle is actually a 1968. It was a 10 bolt. It's a little bit wider, an inch and a half wider, and the wheels and tires will definitely have to be changed out. Last week's project was I was able to get the front and rear windows out. Had a little bit of rot right up in here in the frame for the window. Was able to fix that on both sides, and I sanded the top down to bare metal and applied epoxy primer. So that's all in pretty good shape. Front windshield channel looks pretty good. Inside, got a seat out of I think a 68 I'll be going with. I've got the clutch pedals and brake pedal mounted. Not quite finished with that. I'm going to do some modifications. Everything under the dash is stripped out. You can see the wooden blocks there I'm using to support the air conditioning when we get around to that. I might mention all of the rear brakes, drums, cylinders, springs, all of that was changed out, and I did go with front disc brakes and non-power assisted master cylinder. I'm using a hydraulic clutch. You can see the blue tape underneath there. No room for a booster if you're doing that, so I would have had to go with a hydraulic booster. Front's been pretty well cleaned and painted up in here. Everything's up in pretty good shape. Still have to tighten up the body mount bolts. You can see there the holes that I had to cut to install the body mount bolts. There were, I think, eight bolts or 8 mounts on each side. So here we got, this is the original cover from the air heater box. This car didn't have air conditioning. I will reuse that, and there'll be some refrigerant lines coming through there. This is the modular air conditioner I purchased from Nostalgic Air Parts. You can see it's got a heater hose here that I've just got set in there for right now. I got to figure out a way to, as this sits in against the firewall back here, I got to get that hose to bend so it comes back up and comes through there. There's another heater hose connection behind it, and then these 2 refrigerant lines that'll have to bend around and make their way through there. So I'll walk around and kind of set it up in there so you can see what it's going to look like. I'm still pretty new at this, so the camera may go flying at any time. That's not exactly it, but that's getting pretty close. This hose will come out through here, and the other one, I'm not sure if I can use the exact same number hose or if I'm going to have to get in the Gates catalog and find something a little bit different. I'm also thinking about changing the type of refrigerant lines I'm using. The ones I came with the kit use the double crimp-on connectors, and I can't do that work in-house, and they are really stiff. If you want to, as you're trying to route that stiff hose, you've got to clock the fittings to the hose to make sure that you can get them started and lined up and bolted on once you get the crimping done. They make a different setup, a little more money. I don't know if I can trade in my old kit or not. I got to call them tomorrow and I'll talk to them about that. But I can do those crimps in-house, and they're adjustable, so if you don't get it quite lined up, you can loosen it up, retighten it, and make it work. So the Two Girls Garage show didn't show anything of what they had to do up under the dash in this project they did online in a half an hour. So I think you can see there's a ton of work trying to get this all figured out, and this is just the hose and piping. Then I'll have the wiring to do after that. And I've got a new wiring harness to put in it. The goal here, as I'm waiting on the construction of the motor, I want to try to get everything under the dash kind of roughed in. I'll get this thing hung up here in the next day or two, maybe even today, where I think it's going to go. It's pretty tight. There isn't a lot of room to move it around one way or the other. Then I'm going to go back over and work on, I'll show you some more on this hydraulic clutch master cylinder in another video. And I probably ought to think about getting a radio so I can get it hung up in there. So anyway, a lot of work, a lot of thinking. Some days it doesn't seem like you get much done. I try to use the forums to find out what other people have done and what works, and some of that you got to take with a grain of salt. So it's one of the reasons I thought I'd make these videos, and maybe other people can see a little bit what they might get into when they take on one of these projects. There's a lot of these projects that are sitting because it's either they didn't have the money, they didn't have the expertise, they didn't have the patience, or I don't know, maybe they just lose concentration on it. But these aren't for the faint of heart, and as a crazy 70-year-old man, I'm not sure what I'm doing putting it together sometimes, but I think we'll get it done, and I'm having a lot of fun doing it. So thanks for watching. Hit the like button. I lost the clicker. Amateur. I don't know what I did with it. We'll walk around here and do it the old-fashioned way.